Welcome to Golden Speakers. This is the November 12th, 2013 edition of Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club of Fairfield, Iowa. Meets every Tuesday night at 7:45 in the lower level of First United Methodist Church. Now please join me in warmly welcoming our club president, Rhonda Whitaker.
Thank you, Cindy. You're a wonderful sergeant at arms. I'm very fortunate to have your experienced person up front here. Tonight, I don't have the agenda. I am a bad president.
Isn't there one underneath the lectern?
Yes, this one right here. I'm even worse. Okay. All right, the president's job gets pretty boring. It's the same old thing. I come up here and I say what the mission is. Well, I have to say I'm going through a phase transition as president of the club. I feel like I'm a little bored. So I might be a little rebellious tonight, and it won't last long, but you may see something different.
I like that.
The mission of a Toastmasters Club. Who can tell me the first thing we do as a Toastmasters Club to make people comfortable here?
We clap.
That's right, clapping. Very good. We provide a mutually supportive educational environment, a positive educational environment, in which each and every person has the opportunity to develop oral communication and leadership skills. Hi, Scott. How are you?
Yay.
Welcome. Good to see you. Now, there is something that you all need to know. That's a new trick I've learned. If someone speaks out of turn, like if I'm saying something and someone says, well, that's not quite right, that's not what you should have said, that's kind of racist, and they interrupt me while I'm up here, I'm going to go out of order. By Robert's rules, you are out of order. So if you do that, you'll know you said something out of order. When a person comes up, they want to feel safe up here. And we want to help support them in that feeling of safety by avoiding put-downs, slams, corrections, evaluations, or critical comments while they're up here on stage. The place for those things is on your evaluation form. You can add helpful points. And you can make one recommendation for improvement. That's my 2 cents worth as president of Golden Speakers tonight. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters and viewers at home. I would like to introduce our Toastmaster of the evening, a fairly new Toastmaster, but a shining light in the club, Mr. Monty Condon. Please help me welcome.
Thank you, Rhonda. And like Rhonda said, this is my first time being Toastmaster, having that privilege before you. So let me go ahead and thank you in advance, Golden Speakers, viewer at homes. I believe we have one honored guest here this evening. The theme for our meeting tonight is service. And the quote that was at the top of our agenda reads like this: "Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth." And this was said by Shirley Chisholm. I like that quote. I like the concept of service. I do believe that's ultimately why we're here. Now, part of us performing service for others is, first, we have to know better ourselves. We need to develop ourselves first before we can be of best service to others. And I really think that speaks to what Toastmasters is about. We're a group of people that are coming together to better ourselves, but at the same time also help others. And I think that's a great thing. Now, without further ado, my first role as Mr. Toastmaster is to introduce our role players. Our timer is Slobodan.
Thank you, Monty. As you all know, time doesn't wait for any man. Women could be exceptions, but not tonight. Okay, I'll serve by making sure that there are no exceptions. So, and all the events will happen on time, which means table topics are 1 to 2 minutes events. The green light will come on at 1 minute. The yellow light will come on at 1 minute and 30 seconds. The red at 2 minutes, and it will stay on for about 30 seconds. Speeches are 5 to 7 minutes, except Scott's, which is 7 to 9 minutes. And the green light will come at 5, the yellow at 6, the red at 7. Scott is 7, 8, and 9. The table topics evaluators are 2 to 3 minutes events. Green light will come at 2, yellow at 2:30, and red at 3 minutes. Speech evaluators, again 2 to 3 minutes, green at 2, yellow at 2:30, and red at 3 minutes. All speakers and evaluators have a 30-second grace period after the red light is turned on. Table topic speakers need to speak for at least 1 minute to qualify. Thank you.
Thank you, Slobodan. Next up, and over here in the corner, our awe counter, our world record holder, Alex Sakea.
I think I also have the world record for most ahs. So this is perfect for me. So my job as the ah counter is to count the unnecessary pauses from everyone's speech tonight. So I will be looking for us, us, likes, you know, so, but, and tongue clicks, pauses, repeats of the same word, which we call xeroxes, and false starts, and I will give a report at the end of the meeting. Yay!
Next up, our stoic grammarian, Syria Z.
Yay!
As a grammarian, I will listen to the language used by the members during the meeting, look for bad or good grammar or good sayings, beautiful sayings, and note that down and give a report at the end. And I will also be counting the word of the day, which, since I'm from Europe, I wanted to bring a little bit of a European flavor, perhaps English, with the word splendid. So the word of the day is splendid, and an example for that would be the splendid view moved me deeply. Okay. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Syria. Our general evaluator is Diane.
Here I am.
There you are. Our joke master is our Rhonda Whitaker. And our ballot counter and leader is John here.
No.
Who is our ballot counter tonight?
Whoever.
Whoever.
Yeah.
Whoever.
Whoever.
Anyone can do it.
Ah!
So without further ado, I'd like to begin our table topic session and welcome up Will Burns as table topics master.
Yo! Thank you, Mike. For table topics, I'm going to do something a little bit different as well. I'm going to take this a different way, but I will start by asking for a volunteer. Stephen, come on up. Yo! Well, Stephen, I know this is going to be tough, but well, for a man of your esteemed skills and imagination, I'd like you, Stephen, come over here. Look at this painting and tell me what it invokes in you. Maybe a memory or something that you have.
What painting? Oh, okay. Thank you, Will. Ladies and gentlemen, Toastmasters, viewers at home, I'd like to thank Will for giving me the opportunity to speak about what this work of art adorning our wall here evokes internally as I view its colors, its clouds, the sun barely poking through the clouds, shining on the water, reflecting the water on the water with the mountain in the background. There's a lot of symmetry in this painting. A lot of nature. It's a nature scene. And what this evokes in me is a recognition of nature outside of me being very similar to nature within all of us. There is symmetry within us. The symmetry is discussed as a divine quality by the Greek philosophers. And that's why we find it in classical Greek architecture and in so many of the works of art that are considered classical. The light is partly obscured by the clouds, but you can still see the effects of it.
And it's the light that draws your attention, that draws you in and gives you that contrast against the dark clouds that makes you inspired to know that in spite of darkness around that you may see in life, that there is a light. It may be hidden at times, but it's there. It's always there. It's within us and outside of us. And it's that light within us that we shine forth and makes life really lit up and beautiful and bright and fun. It's energizing. You're seeing that light. Just don't you feel energized again when you see the light in that? And the waves on the water, and you're excited that you want to just jump in and swim. Alex, don't you want to take a swim in that water? That is fantastic. I want to climb those trees. I want to climb that mountain and see what it looks like from the top of that mountain. Don't you? Don't you? This is the adventure of life right here. And it's right in front of us all the time, everywhere we look. Seemingly insignificant paintings that we walk by and don't even notice every day. And heaven we're being reminded of heaven within us and all around us. Just this garden, beautiful universe that has been created for our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Will.
Next volunteer. Yep. Go. Sam. Welcome, Sam. Okay, for this one, I'm going to pose a question to you.
Okay.
And I will remind you that as a guest, you have up to 30 seconds to think about your answer before you respond.
Okay.
Once you respond, you'll be able to kind of go and riff. Would you share with us today an example of how you were of service to somebody else, or how somebody else was of service to you, and that they had their own?
Beloved Toastmasters, here today I would like to share with you a very wonderful thing that has enriched my life in very profound ways that have, firstly and foremost, changed my view of what consciousness is in terms of how we experience reality and what it really gives to you and changes you on the inside when you're willing to open yourself up to somebody else's inner world. When I was back living in Washington State, that's where I'm originally from, I was a hospice volunteer. And I did this for a period of 2 months and saw a very beloved person that I'm pretty sure I cannot name due to confidentiality. However, he was in the Navy during World War II. And this is something that very much was a part of his life and influenced his personality on very many levels. He was very rambunctious and militaristic and kind of gruff and to the point, and that's something that I actually really loved about him. He would just not beat around the bush for anything. He'd tell you, you know what, you're bugging me. Okay, I want you to leave. I'm done today. And he'd just tell you that, and you'd be like, I love you, and you'd walk away. And that was what was really lovable about him. And one time I specifically recall him deep in a memory. He did have some dementia, but this caused me to question mental illness because he was living in a memory of an experience he had had aboard ship during World War II. And he was candidly experiencing the present moment in this memory, and it was very fascinating for me. And I had a bit of a moral question as to whether or not I should play along with him. And it was a rewarding and enriching experience when I opened myself up to that reality and saw that he was really excited there, and that was what made him happy.
that story with us in a not so gruff but still very touching way. Do I have one more volunteer?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take this painting over here on my right. Just tell us, if you would, what sort of images this conjures up for you, memories, maybe some childhood experience or not.
All right, so here we have a painting with water, a bridge, nice hills in the background. And what does it conjure up for me? It conjures up very nice, pleasant country feeling, cozy, relaxing. It's another world. It's not this world. It's a few hundred years ago. It's very relaxing compared with the 21st century. And nice trees and perfect idyllic scene. It was painted that way anyway for the customers, I presume. And the bridge, I'm home in the bridge for some reason, maybe because it's a man-made thing in a natural environment, and there's something else there, some buildings. So it fades off into the distance, into the mist, so that's kind of nice as well, fading off into infinity. So you've got everything, you've got the greenery, and there's no animals as far as I can see. I'm fascinated by animals. Maybe there are some animals there. Lower right, yeah. Well, I'm sort of fascinated by animals, but I don't see so many more standing. So all I can say is it's a nice, pleasant, enjoyable thing, and that's what it's designed to be. So.
Yo! You're done. I'll call up the Toastmaster. Oh, go ahead and vote. Did all
All
of you?
been qualified, yeah.
Okay, and the names.
Steve, Sam, and Bay.
Steve, Sam, and Faye. Vote for your favorite table topic speaker. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our table topics evaluator, Jyoti Raj Adhikari.
Fellow Toastmasters, guests and viewers at home, let me straight away start with Steve Harper. You took a while to start your speech. That's a very good thing to do. You have some 5 to 10 seconds. You thought about the picture. You went near the painting and started presenting what you saw. That is very good technique to start with. You will have that practice 10 seconds, even 30 seconds to think. You greeted the audience. And you had the vivid description of the painting. What the speech, overall speech was very fabulous, good. My suggestion is you spent a lot of time this side here near the painting. So what you have done better is you have just taken 5 to 10 seconds to see the picture and just came back to the audience and started relating your universe, the nature inside you and outside with the picture. So that distracted a little bit. That is only my suggestion. Otherwise, the speech was fabulous. And Sam, you greeted the audience and you started with the story. You told the story. That's a very good technique in table topic. So that was fabulous. Your voice is very clear. You are very clear in what you are saying. You are very sincere. So it's coming from inside. You are very clear. Good smile. You smile like that. Only one my suggestion is you are most of the time you are this side of the audience, and a lot of time you're just looking on the floor. So you just, if you keep on looking at the audience and keeping good eye contact, you are a very good speaker. And vague, you have a very good description of the picture. The only suggestion I have is, most of the time you are this side and near the picture. So if you have moved here, like what I suggested, Steve, like just see the picture and come back to the audience and present what you have learned from the picture or the painting. Otherwise, your speech was really good. I like it. So all three of you did a very good job. Waiting to see much more. Thank you.
Still a little bit rough around the edges, but I'll get there. So are you ready for the main event tonight?
Yeah.
Prepared speeches. So, first up is our own Tom Traynor, who is going to be evaluated by Rhonda Whitaker.
All right, Rhonda.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Tom Traynor is a 17-year veteran member of Toastmasters. He hasn't retired yet, so I guess I can't call him veteran. He is a double distinguished Toastmaster and is currently working on his 3rd Distinguished Toastmaster Award. He has served in his club in every officer role, including being the Area 92 and District E Governor. Tom has started and/or mentored 3 new Toastmasters clubs, including one operating at the Fort Madison Maximum Security Prison, and our newest club at Cambridge. Tonight, Tom is doing project number 5, Bringing History to Life from the Advanced Communicator Manual Storytelling. He has asked the timer for 6 to 8 minutes. His title is VE Day. Since this is a storytelling, Tom would like everyone to sit close in a semicircle to facilitate this event. Please pull your chairs up and help me warmly welcome Tom Traynor.
It was May the 8th. It was a Monday. May the 8th, 1945. I was 2 months and 10 days short of being 4 years old. My mom got my dad off to work at 7 in the morning. He delivered bread, World War II. My sister got off to school at 8. Mom got me all dressed up with real shoes to go downtown. We left the house, took a right turn, walked about 25 feet across the street, waited for the 8:50 bus to go downtown, go shopping. Whatever Mom had in mind. I'm only 4 years old, what do I know? I'm just along for the ride. 8:50 came and went. The bus didn't arrive. By 9 o'clock, and we didn't know the time, the church bells started to ring. The fire sirens started to ring. Wartime, gas rationing, no cars on the street. All of a sudden, there's a car coming down the street. He is beeping his horn, flashing his lights, and he's acting like a crazy person. And he stopped, and he said to my mother, "The war in Europe is over, and the entire country has shut down." Oh, there won't be a bus? No, there won't be a bus. We went home, turned on the radio. President Truman, who had only been in office a month or so, was giving a speech on the radio. My mom didn't have the radio on. She was not one of the radio people. Listen to that. Pretty soon, my sister came home from school. All the schools were dismissed. My dad came home from work. And he's a bread man. He's got a truck. And so as a truck, he's got a gas ration card, and he can do anything he wants with that truck. Had some food and unloaded the truck because it's full of bread. And he's supposed to be on the route, but everything's canceled. Nothing is open except the hospital, the fire station, and the policemen. Nobody else was working. All the factories were let out. Church bells rang, fire sirens rang for a good hour. Victory in Europe. That's where VE Day came from. Short term, VE Day, Victory in Europe. Next door neighbors, friend of my mom and dad's, he was also a bread man. He came home, got the day off. They had a cottage at the same place my parents did. We'll go to the cottage, unload all the bread out of the truck. They had 2 kids, similar. My sister was 6 years older. Their kids were in between. So it would be like, I'm 4, my sister's 10, they were 8 and 6. The kids got to lay on the ledge across the top of the truck, and if we put our heads over, we could look out the windshield. And the 4 adults are sitting down on the area of the truck. My father's driving, and the other guy is sitting in, there wasn't a seat, he's sitting on a box that would have been full of bread, and the 2 ladies are sitting on the floor. And we go to see the cottage. We hadn't been there since fall. It was too cold, but it was just something to do, because there's nothing to do. There's no movies, there's no shopping, there's nothing, because everybody's celebrating. And my mother thought it would be probably a pretty good idea not to let my father and his buddy go to for a beer, because she knew they'd be gone all day. So we go to the cottage, we arrive, and we're driving down basically your dirt road, like Iowa, dirt road. It says Class B maintenance, forget about it. There's no maintenance, it's just dirt with a little bit of stones and gravel. It's spring, but we drove in, but we get halfway down. It's a 1-mile road from the state highway down to the seashore, Lake Ontario. Halfway down, the farmer's out, and he's working the horses. They're doing whatever they were doing in the spring, maybe plowing. I don't know what he was doing. I'm only 4 years old. I don't remember all the details. We stop. We tell him that he didn't know the war's over. He's a farmer. He works all day. What does he know? He doesn't listen to the radio. He doesn't have an iPhone. He doesn't have anything. He's just an old-fashioned farmer working in the field with horses. We stop. We talk. Have a nice conversation. The farmer takes out some sugar cubes that he keeps in his pocket for the horses. My sister, he showed everybody, but I'm only 4, so my sister puts it correctly, and she offers it. Of course, the horse, he knows, and pow! The other kid offers it. There's a pair of horses, does the same thing. The other girl offers it, no problem. They give me a sugar cube. I offered it like this. The horse took a look, and he went chomp, and my fingers were in between his teeth. And the horse didn't know any different. All he wants is the sugar cube. He doesn't care. So he ground my fingers a little bit before he realized the farmer whacked him one, and he gave up my fingers, and my fingers are bleeding like crazy. All of a sudden, our wonderful holiday celebration of Victory in Europe Day became a floating disaster. It was a splendid screw-up. We all go back to the city. We go to the emergency room. Got to get a tetanus shot because it's a horse. Got to have him look at my fingers. A couple stitches. One of them needed a stitch or 2. And that is why I can remember so many details. Ordinarily, a 4-year-old wouldn't remember all of that depth. But it was one of those days that just... Later that summer, we had VJ Day, Victory over Japan. Until 1954, VE Day and VJ Day were celebrated as holidays. But the federal government started looking at all the holidays and decided they're going to wean it back a little bit. So they took all the holidays and they consolidated them. And 11/11, yesterday, which was Armistice Day for World War I, became Veterans Day to cover World War I, VE Day, VJ Day, and eventually all the veterans. Now the purpose of this story is to kind of give you a contrast. Every other war since then, we have declared ourselves victors and walked away from wherever we were, and we certainly weren't victors in any of the wars we've been involved with. Korea, Vietnam, Iraq I, Iraq II. whatever the little excursions were into Bosnia and other places. But that was truly a place and a time when everyone was aware of what that meant, to have the end of World War II. I lived through it. You didn't know it then, now I know it, and I wanted to share that with you so that you understand what it's like to have a country that knows it won a just war. There was a reason to have a war. It was a just war, and it was over. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Tom. All right, pens down. For the second speech for this evening, we're going to have Cindy Traynor introduce Scott Terry.
Yo!
Tonight we are going to hear a folk tale, and that's project number 1 in the storytelling manual. The advanced manual that people can get into after they earn their competent communicator. Tonight Scott's objectives are to tell a folk tale that is entertaining and enjoyable for a specific age group. And I don't know if he's going to have us pretend we're this old or this old. And Scott is to use vivid imagery and voice to enhance the tale. To read his introduction, the calling. Your moment is now! Exclamation point. Scott's big moment came when, as the sad clown coming out of the ridiculously small car that seemed to go nowhere anyway, with those red, big, floppy feet and no motor except to the center of the circus ring. How he knew that his life was not for him anymore. He heard the small voice inside him say, "Look up! Move! Change now!" And at that moment the rope broke, with the girl swinging just above his head, and Scott was never the same again. This, too, is the truth of Scott's head injury, so he tells me. Scott will present to you today from Project 1 of the Storytelling Manual, the folk tale. He will tell you about heeding your call or risk watching life descending from the sky on top of you in a way too comical a manner and make you want to get in your silly car and go home again. Please join me in a warm welcome to Scott.
The calling. What is your calling? What has been each of your calling? Your call to a journey, your call to adventure, your call to change, growth, transformation. When do we allow that to happen for ourselves, for the world around us? Welcome, Toastmasters, honored guests, and viewers at home. Yes, you are not this tall. You are way up here somewhere. The hero's journey that Joseph Campbell describes is one that we all live. Each one of us moves through the folk tales of our own lives. The first stage of this journey is we're living an ordinary life. Think of Dorothy in Kansas. Until the tornado comes, which is her calling, her point of change. It's the moment where she returns to either a mystical place or something deep within herself where transformation can take hold. It's the same when we think about The Hobbit, Bilbo Baggins and wonderful Hobbitown, lovely moving along. What does the folk tales, the modern folk tale entail? How are we living our lives like this? So Bilbo Baggins is living his life, smoking his pipe and smiling, and he's never been outside the borders of his own town until Gandalf comes, the wizard, and says, it's time. You too are needed. In Star Wars, we see the ordinary life of Luke Skywalker, alone as the twin suns are setting in the distance, and he's looking out way over there among the dust and the red stars, and he knows something must change, but he doesn't know what it is. He's frustrated and angry at his father, his uncle actually, who he lives with, who won't let him move on. He must stay till the next harvest. He must stay and be ordinary. But he knows there's something more in him. This is contrasted with Princess Leia on the ship. And she's in the middle of a battle, and she sends a message to the droid that we then see Luke encounter the following day with the message down here that says, Obi-Wan, save me. You're the only one who could save me. And thus begins Luke's journey. That is the modern folktale, the call to adventure. Before Luke and each of us tries to refuse that call and say, no, I don't want to change. I'm not ready for it. We all do that. Luke did that. And then he moves on into that distant sun, the twin sun setting. And what are our twin suns? So I have this client, Mary, we'll call her, and she has this idyllic, perfect life. She's got 2 beautiful children, a husband who's wealthy and successful. She lives in a big house. She is educated with an advanced degree. Her life couldn't be better. She's got material presence. She's smart. She's got everything that somebody should want. And before the affairs happen, and before the material things aren't enough, there's a moment. We all have that moment. And it's not enough. She comes to me and she knows that change needs to happen. And she resists the call at first. And then she goes. Mark is another client. Called me last week. He's anxious, he's depressed, he's obsessive, he's having panic attacks so bad I'm not sure if I have to hospitalize him or not. He's certainly ADHD, and he can't focus, he can't think. What he's lost in, though, is his folktale, his story, which has become twisted. The folktale tells him that he should be like his 3 brothers, a doctor, a lawyer, and a business guy who's so successful in oozing money. His father was greatly successful. He manifested something so important that Mark can't manage. So he pushes, and he pushes, and he pushes, and he thinks that's what will make him successful, is more material things and more success, but it will never be enough. If he's a millionaire, he'll need 2 million. If he has 2 million, he'll need 4 million. He has a beautiful child, he'll need 3 children. He has a beautiful wife. Apparently it wasn't enough. He needed another one. Until he heard the calling. And the calling in his case was the destruction of his life. He was going to be hospitalized and down one road or down another. We have the Matrix, where you have one pill, where you forget, and you go back to that ordinary world, and you have another pill that makes you wake up and knows what's real and what's possible. And sometimes we don't have a choice between one pill or the other pill. Sometimes we must choose. Mark had to choose. He was choosing. For me, One of my callings was after I was hospitalized after a bad accident. He actually fell from the sky, or I fell from a bike. One of the two happened, I don't remember. And this splendid moment happened in the midst of destruction. I finally get out of the hospital in Marin, and I'm back in Chicago, and I'm on what we think of as the clown bus that takes us to the rehab center. And my best friend on the bus is some guy who couldn't speak because he had had a heart attack, and I thought he was retarded, sorry to say the word. But he couldn't think, he couldn't speak. I found out later that he was a professor, like me, and he would lost himself. He was still there, but he couldn't become who he needed to become. So I'm at this rehab center, and it would take me 2 hours to recover just from the 15-minute bus ride over. And I'm out there one day in the park, looking around in the car park. And I take a phone session. I do a phone session because that part of my brain still worked for some reason. And I have this clarity of a moment, that calling for me, saying, I know who I need to be again. I know who I am. And I'm not this. I'm not this. And I'm not the material things. I am more than this. I'm here for a reason. I'm here for that service. I'm here for that splendid moment to create something so much greater within ourselves and in others. And I move. We all must move. And a few years later, a perfect life descends upon me. And she does fall from the sky, and here I am. So I turn to each of you now to think, what is your calling? Sometimes they're small. Sometimes they're huge. And what's important is to think for ourselves, have we been refusing our calls? These moments, these perfect little splendid moments where we too can be alive, serve and make a difference. Remember your moment. Remember your calling. And don't run away from it next time. Thank you.
Let's take 2 minutes and evaluate the speaker. Now for our third and final speech, we're going to have Gene Symington-Cred introducing Rick Starr.
Some technical difficulties here.
Technical difficulties.
Okay, Monty, that means you're supposed to start tapping. You may have guessed, Rick is doing project number 8 in the Competent Communicator Manual called Get Comfortable with Visual Aids. He just went through one of those perspiration-breaking experiences where your visual aid is not cooperating. However, we're back on track. Very well done. His objectives are to select visual aids that are appropriate for his message and for the audience. He is to use visual aids correctly with ease and confidence. His title is Dreamboats. Please help me warmly welcome Rick Starr.
Worked so well in rehearsal. Cars today are paragons of engineering excellence. They're fuel efficient, they're safe, they're reliable, they're boring. For those of you who missed the American cars of the 50s, you missed the boat. You missed the dreamboats. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, viewers at home. I know. Practically speaking, these cars were a disaster. They were gas guzzlers. They spewed enough pollution to choke a city. And you bought a new one in a couple of years, it rusted away to nothing. But these were more than cars. These offered excitement, adventure, romance. These were rolling pieces of sculpture. These were 2-ton works of art with acres of chrome, tail fins that reached to the sky. They looked like rocket ships. Even the names of these cars stirred the imagination. The Lincoln Capri, the Mediterranean resort island of Capri. The Buick Riviera, being on the French Riviera. Just owning these cars made you feel you were vacationing on a tropical island. But the best car name of them all was the Cadillac Eldorado. Now the Eldorado was a myth, was a legend. It was a mythical golden city somewhere in South America. And this myth was taken seriously enough so that explorers launched several expeditions to find this city. Eldorado eventually came to mean the quest itself, not just the city, but the quest. The quest for an unreachable goal. So if you bought a Cadillac Eldorado, you would have reached your goal. Your dreams would have been fulfilled. Songs were written about these cars. Chuck Berry, father of rock and roll. Chuck Berry invented rock and roll guitar playing, and to this day people play like Chuck Berry. But not only was he a great guitar player, he was a great songwriter, great lyricist, a great storyteller. And if you listen to his songs, you might think that Chuck Berry was in Toastmasters just by the construction of his songs, of his stories. One song, Maybelline, it's about cars and romance. And like any good story, it has an introduction. Maybelline, why can't you be true? Oh, Maybelline, why can't you be true? You started back doing the things you used to do. What do we know? He has a girlfriend named Maybelline. She has some problems with the monogamy thing. Not only that, she's back to her old habits. But the story goes on. As I was motivating over the hill, I saw Maybelline in a Coupe de Ville. This is awful. Not only she's with another guy, but some guy driving a Cadillac. It's adding insult to injury. It's rubbing salt in the wound. But our hero doesn't give up. He wants to fight for the woman he loves. And the song goes on. Cadillac rolling on the open road, nothing will outrun my V8 Ford. Cadillac doing about 95, bumper to bumper, rolling side by side. What imagery, a battle, fighting for the woman he loves. So to find out what happens, you're going to have to download the song and listen to the rest of it. Now these cars were big, and comfortable, and big. Forget about minivans. You could fit your whole family into one of these cars. If you lost these cars were so big, if you lost your apartment, you could move into the car with your furniture. These cars were so big, if you got into an accident, you wouldn't even notice it till you got home. These cars were so big that the front seat and the back seat were in different time zones. So I'll admit it, these cars were impractical. These cars were gas guzzlers. They made a lot of pollution, but these cars were dreamboats.
More minutes for evaluation. It's that time. The evaluations are over. We're about to get ready to vote for our best speaker. Mr. Timer, can I hear who qualified?
All the speakers qualified.
All the speakers qualified.
Yes. Tom Scott and Briggs.
1 minute to vote for best speaker. Well, the votes are in. we're going to have to wait just a little bit longer, fellow Toastmasters. This is the beginning of our evaluation session. It's going to be led by Diane.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone, Toastmasters, guests, viewers at home. This is the third splendid part of the evening where we do evaluations and evaluators listen so that they can offer constructive suggestions for your growth. We're here to grow and to learn. The first evaluator that we will be hearing from this evening is
Rhonda.
Thank you. Rhonda is going to evaluate Tom Trainer. Rhonda Whitaker.
Oh, Tom is a masterful storyteller. Tom, I always enjoy the down-home song of what you're saying. You vary your tone, you have your sincerity, and you have the exciting and humor as well. When you began your story, one of the goals of this is to make the plot clear for the story. At first, it was not clear. I felt bewildered because I wasn't sure where we were going or what the plot was going to be. But I think that might have been a very effective technique because what you talked about in here was shock after shock after shock of things that happened on a day that was not a normal day. After a while, by the end, the plot was clear. Well, you wanted us to know about how Veterans Day came to be and that you had an experience that imprinted that on your mind forever. To what degree did the speaker succeed in building the story to a climax? There seemed to be one climax after another, so it was a very exciting story. For instance, they started out with a normal day, and things started going crazy. The crazy driver, the bells ringing, Dad coming home with a full truck of bread. He built character. Tom talked about each character, developing character. The one I was impressed with was the irony of the farmer. He said to us he was just a farmer. He worked all day. He didn't know the war was over. He didn't have a cell phone. And at that point we laughed because it broke the tension and we kind of could relate to the farmer. It was a great technique, Tom. Tom made us laugh in the middle of a day that was very chaotic. He gave us an idea of what that day and age was like by bringing the cell phone in to something that was all sounding very different. Did the speaker make effective use of description and dialogue in telling the story? Did everyone feel like they learned something from history tonight? Yes. Did we gain insight into the historical event or the person the speaker was talking about, which is him? I think we did.
Yeah.
How effectively did the speaker use vocal variety while telling the story? Tom is a master of telling stories. His vocal variety is high and low. He has loud and soft. He varies his rate, and he brings us into the story so much that we forget where we are. Tom, the only thing I would suggest is perhaps telling us where we're going with the story in the beginning. Otherwise, it was excellent. Thank you very much for that story. I look forward to more. Mr. Toastmaster.
Next up is Cindy Trainer to evaluate Scott Terry. Cindy?
Yo!
Let's give Cindy a hand.
Thank you, Diane, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and viewers at home. But most especially, Scott. The calling. I was thinking about movie titles when I saw the title of your speech. And I'm thinking, well, it's not Halloween, I don't know, but I don't know where he's going with this. And then I read your your intro to myself, and I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be some talk. So you really attracted me to the story from your intro. And I'll call it curiouser and curiouser, because I had no idea where you were going with it. And that pulled me in. You had hints, possibly, of pieces of your story sprinkled throughout your intro, but I didn't know that at the time. And it was interesting because these little light bulbs went off throughout the body of your talk. It's like, oh, the woman fell from the sky, or you fell off your bike, whichever. But that kind of pulled in your intro and wove it into the story, which was, for me, an interesting technique. Because some people like stories. They want to know what the destination is going to be before they leave. And you didn't have that in your story, at least for me. And it's kind of a mix, because it works well for some. They like the mystery. And for other people, they're kind of confused. So it's hard to tell what part and how much of a mix of your audience is going to be in one pew or the other, so to speak. But I liked your use of your tempo, your body language. You went down, and if I get all the way as low as you did, at the R2-D2 level, I may not be able to stand back up. So I won't try that. But you used The Hobbit, and with each story you appeared to vary the tempo to fit each story. And your volume, and you didn't have, when you were doing some of it, you didn't have a sing-song to your voice. You were, the way you did it was kind of like jazz. Little syncopated. It was different. And that really kept me from falling asleep in the back. I liked that. So your vocal variety was well done, and fit perfectly also with your body language. I didn't find any parts of your story that slowed anything down. And the way you told it really shaped and enhanced everything. And there's a lot more to talk about, but you'll have to read about it. I'm done. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you very much. I'll now invite Jean Symington Craig up to evaluate Rick Starr.
Yo!
Jean Symington.
Fellow Toastmasters, guests, and viewers at home, and particularly Rick. I loved your speech, Rick. Very visual. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about why. Were the visual aids appropriate for the speech and message? I thought very much so. He's talking about cars, his love of the cars of the 50s. What better way to do that than to show images of these beautiful eye candy cars? Did each visual aid help me to understand and remember the speaker's point? Yes, he went through, he actually tied the names of cars to concepts and dreams and visions, and you had to see the car to really get that. Was each visual aid clearly visible? Yes. I didn't have any problem seeing anything. Were the aids used smoothly and with confidence? That's where there was the hiccup, the proverbial nightmare of just my equipment isn't quite working the way I need it to. So would recommend to Rick that he think about, for future presentations, what he could do to not have that happen, whatever it takes. Back up somebody else with an extra computer, who knows, but that's the kind of thing you don't want to have happen when you're already thinking about your speech. How clear was the speaker's purpose? I thought it was very clear. It was humorous and informative, both. A little more emphasis on humorous. We got into it a little bit. Did the speaker use body language to reinforce the message? I'm going to come back. Were the speaker's word choice effective and appropriate? Very much so. I just felt like I was on a little bit of an automotive journey that felt really good. And was the speech well researched? Yes, I got a lot of information about those cars. A couple things that could have been done differently, and I'm just going to focus a little bit on Rick because the presentation was so great up here. So you have all these people with attention on the PowerPoint, and you've got gestures that you're trying to incorporate. So people's attention is a little bit on the screen as well as on you. And what I would say was that to be closer to the screen, and you were, well, Rick was, he was a little pacing a little bit. He was kind of moving around and just not quite as purposeful as maybe could be done. I would consider throwing in some, because Rick has some really great moves. We've seen him in previous speeches with clowns. Is get behind the wheel a little bit. You put your arm on the steering wheel, put your arm around your baby, look back, look at the kid when you're talking about the family. You know, we all, I don't know, maybe not everybody, but I remember kids, quiet, down back there, and there's huge cars. Some extra things that could be done that way visually for yourself. And then also some additional hand gestures. There's a little bit, this was the primary one. Again, get some different things going with your arms to enhance your speech. Lots of glamour and drama. I like the songs, the humor, and the beautiful images. Really solid. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yes.
I evaluate the evaluators right now.
No.
That's what that
You
agenda
vote
is saying. I
first,
didn't think
and then
so.
you have your role players.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, the agenda's a little different. Vote please for the best evaluator. Did everyone qualify,
everybody
including
qualified.
our,
Rhonda, Cindy, and James.
and Joe T for table topics?
Yes, Jody, right there. Right.
Okay, please vote. And then I'll, okay, that's right there. Welcome back. I'd now like to have the timers report, please. Slobodan?
Yes.
Thank you.
Table topics. Steve spoke for 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Sam for 2 minutes and 26 seconds. And Ray for 1 minute and 19 seconds. Speeches. Tom spoke for 8 minutes and 6 seconds. Scott spoke for 9 minutes and 18 seconds. And Rick spoke for 5 minutes and 20 seconds. Table topics evaluator. Jody spoke 3 minutes and 1 second. Speech evaluators. Rhonda spoke for 3 minutes and 6 seconds. Cindy for 3 minutes and 19 seconds. And Jean for 3 minutes and 22 seconds. That's all. That's my report.
Thank you. Alex, would you like to give us the counter report, please? Alex Sakay.
I would love to. Excellent night tonight. Everyone did a really, really good job. I was listening very carefully. So here it goes. Rhonda had 1 false start, the whole meeting, 1 false start. Cindy had 1 very quiet tongue click and 5 false starts. Monty, 1 repeat. Slobodan, 2 false starts. Surya, 1 and 1 false start. Will Burns, 1 false start. Steve, 1 2 ands and 2 copies. Sam, our guest, 2 us, 1 2 ands. Vay, 3 us, 2 so's and 2 ands. Jyoti, 1 so and 1 false start. Tom, 3 false starts. Scott, 1 and 2 false start. Rick, 2 false starts. Dean Simon John Craig, 1 and 1 and. Diane, 1 false start so far.
Surya, our grammarian, will now give his report. Thank you.
I'm a bit of a professional in the art of grammarian. I watch my fiance and listen to my fiance all day. She's Chinese, and so I correct her all the time, and these are little nice moments in my day. I don't like to correct her, but I have.
Yeah, sure.
But at the same time, I am German, and so please take this with a grain of salt. So, beautiful things you said tonight. Monty, what you said I liked was we better ourselves and we serve others. That's beautiful. Then we had our guests. Generally, really eloquent use of the English language. I liked one phrase that you, or something you said was candid experience of the present. Just one of those tools. Tom, splendid script. Very nice integration of my word of the day, at the same time creating kind of a contrast. Scott, she fell from the sky and I fell from the bike. That was kind of nice. And then a little bit of a mistake. He would lost himself. Either he would have lost himself or he lost himself. Rick, paragons of engineering excellence. I didn't even know what that meant, but that sounded beautiful. Choke the city, 2-ton piece of art. A lot of nice ones like that. The car was big, comfortable, and big. Diane, you also had a splendid, fantastic. Then Rhonda, there seemed to be was sort of was proper. Okay. One last one, Cindy, curiouser and curiouser. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is now time for a joke with Rhonda Whitaker, our joke master.
Yo!
Thank you, General Evaluator. I would like to point out the clock. When the clock is not up here, we have this, the Last Supper. Now, when we're in here, there's one Last Supper on a huge tapestry behind the screen. Right back here, if you could see behind there, you would see a huge Lord's Supper tapestry.
There is. Yep.
Yes. So, you've heard that the difference between Buddha and Jesus. Anybody heard that?
No.
Jesus saves, and Buddha recycles. So, when is one Last Supper enough? This has fingerprints on it because we're always taking it off the wall. It's got Toastmasters fingerprints all over it. I think I will dust it tonight so that we can have a new start. But when we're not here, one Last Supper is never enough.
Yo!
Great. Well, you said you were going to be different, and that was different to me. That's great. Thank you. I am now, as the general evaluator, going to evaluate the evaluators. Jyoti's not here. I want to say one thing, one of my suggestions for Jyoti, so I think it's a general suggestion for evaluators. I find that when you're speaking to the group or speaking to the person that you're evaluating, I suggest you start more with things like, I noticed, I saw, I felt, I discovered, I learned, I suggest, rather than, it's not that it's wrong, but all the you. It's just a thought. I don't know if it opens more receptivity. That was going to be one of my suggestions to Jyoti, and I thought I'd share that with everyone. So now Rhonda, what I liked was you used the manual, great technique for evaluators. I liked the way you answered, and then I liked the way you gave examples. I'm always impressed when people bring up, and that was a great technique that you used in the speech, because there are techniques that are in good speeches. So when they get acknowledged, I like that because I learn. My only suggestion for you, Rhonda, was in your voice volume. When you were acknowledging Tom's voice volume, perhaps when you acknowledged that he's good with the high and the low, you could have mimicked that. I hope I just did that correctly. And also something about Tom, his manner, sitting up there like Big Tom, storyteller. He brings us in. A little more drama, because you're good at that. That's my suggestion. And you're thorough, and I love the way you use the audience participation, get our opinion, so that Tom could see it was a group, anonymous. Cindy, I really admire the way you approached evaluating Scott. Because in my world, I sit and I think Scott is the most intelligent, creative man, one of that I've ever met. But I personally am one of those, I'm a little more in the box, so it's like, tell me what you're going to tell me, and tell me what you told me. So to have that other perspective of how other people could be thinking really served, and maybe it served the people in the room that are like me. You just really, Scott, you created mystery, kept making me more curious and curious like that. I thought that was great. I can't even read my own writing. You up here with the jazz and the gesture is fantastic. Oh, my suggestion for you was just one more for Cindy. Is that you were so great at the out-of-the-box people, and when you said something about, one way or the other, explain what the other might be, just the traditional way. Then Jean, I think for me, you won my heart, and I'm sure you won Rick's, if I may jump in there for a second. I love the way she just came out. I loved your speech. And then she went from there. I love that. And you used the manual. You're a pro. You do everything. The gestures up here, the suggestions, the acknowledgments, the acting everything out, dancing, twirling. I'll twirl because that's what I'm supposed to do. Everything. So, down to the bitter end, I'm like, what am I going to suggest to Jean Symington Craig? I love you. She didn't exactly find me as smoothly as Jean usually does. So that was my suggestion. Be aware of where I am, the general evaluator. All right. So you can shake my hand. Great job, everyone. Thank you. And I'm going to call up Auntie.
Golden speakers, viewers at home, it's time to get excited. Rewards time. So first up, best table topics. What do we got? Steve. Yay! Congratulations, Steve.
Thank you very much.
That's great. Great descriptions.
Excellent.
Best speaker goes to Rick. Yep. One more time. Best evaluator. Can I get the trophy? Is Jean.
Yes.
This is new. Is this new?
Yes.
Oh, no, they're always new.
It's shiny. Congratulations.
Got one more ribbon, Scott.
One more ribbon.
That's just
Rick.
For Rick. Competent Communicator, project number 8. Getting comfortable with visual aids. Table topics, did you want the trophy, Steve?
Yeah, take
My
some
bad.
work.
Yeah.
Bring it back.
Still a little bit new, a little bit green, but starting to wear off. Golden Speakers, viewers at home, thank you for this opportunity to be your Toastmaster, and I look forward to doing it again.
Yo!
Now the rep of the meeting is we have President.
We're going to ask our guest, Sam, if he would like to comment on something he appreciated about tonight's meeting. Sam, would you care to say anything?
Well, what I really loved is just stylistic tips in terms of how we can personally become more aware of the actual presence we have on the front and center stage and the impact that we're having on the viewing audience. I feel like you guys really help give kind of a self-reflective perspective of the speaker's own presence, and I love that angle to things a lot.
I would also like to welcome Carol Negro to the club. She became a member tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Last week we had Mahesh
That's right.
become a member. So we qualify for a drawing now with our district. We can enter their, what do they call it when they draw? A raffle. We get to be in a raffle because we have 2 new members in November. Thank you very much. With that, if there are no more comments, Art?
Toastmasters, I am the secretary and treasurer of Golden Speakers, and the officers decided at the last officers meeting that it would be wise and useful and beneficial to the club if I were to offload the secretary duties to some other member. So I am asking some member who's not an officer right now to step forward and become the secretary. It is a light duty. I would like to give it away and teach you what I know about doing the work of the secretary. That's it.
Very good. Thank you.
So come see me or send me an email, but even better, see me right now tonight.
Yay!
Service.
Service.
Yes.
Being the secretary is service, our theme.
Thank you, Tom, for that reminder. Our meeting is adjourned until next Tuesday at 7:40.